What's up, y'all? Seen a question about a specific tire that I worked with, RC four-wheel drive, getting them designed, produced, and released. Mostly design elements that I passed on to RC four-wheel drive. They handle the production and release of them. Well, I guess I was a little bit part of the release, kind of keeping people informed about stuff, and initially getting them underway. But anyway, on with the video. So I kind of wanted to do like a be-all, end-all video on that I can put out there for people to really dial in their tires, make choices on tires, tune the tires, make decisions about your specific rig. So I have a whole bunch of talking points that I wrote down. First video I'll ever do that I actually thought out. But they will be in no particular order, so you need to compile all the information together for yourself. So what we're going to talk about with micro tires is we're going to talk about the compounds, some of the different brands. I will admit I am out of the loop on a lot of the newer brands, but the information you'll get will educate you enough to make good decisions on like whether a tire is good or not. So size differences, carcass thickness, venting your wheels. You do not want air-filled tires unless you're trying to do water crossings a lot. And there is a way that you could do that. I have not done it myself, but I thought about it the other day, and I'll cover that, how you can have vented and unvented rims at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but your choice between the two from the same wheel. Foams or no foams. We're going to talk about tread cutting, so siping, removing lugs. We're going to talk about wheel weights, weighted wheels, meaning steel wheels. We're going to talk about your rig weight, and then a very important thing is your balance ratio on your crawler when all said and done. So, okay, let's start with the different compounds. This should be one of your first choices in choosing a tire, is whether it's got a shit compound or not. Two polar opposites, in my opinion, for example, are the RGT wheels, which for me have the absolute most phenomenal compound that I have seen to date in a micro tire. These are so soft, they are super sticky. The carcass, I don't know that it's thinner than like some of the RC four-wheel drive offerings, so much as, yes, it is thinner, because I have these two. I have the Falcon, whatever you can call them, Wild Peaks, and then the TSL clone. And I would have to say that the Falcons are definitely thinner, especially on the exterior, the actual contact patch. They're very, very thin, but they are so soft and so squishy, and they are a smaller tire comparative to something like the Scramblers, But and that's something that comes into play with your choice on your rig. If you're building a 1/20th scale, or you're building maybe like a little 1/24th scale. So that's a personal preference choice on tire size. That's totally up to you. You're going to be able to tackle larger obstacles with a larger tire, obviously. But, these the compound for these is just phenomenal. They're so squishy. They're so squishy. I feel like you could just fold them into themselves like nothing. Phenomenal. Absolutely love these. The build I'm doing right now will have these on them. I'm super thrilled to run them. God, they're sticky. They're sticky as all hell. Okay, onward. So tire compounds. Yeah, I was comparing these to something like, surprisingly, the Axial Nitto Trail Grappler that comes stock on the SCX 24 deadbolt. This is in my opinion, this is a garbage tire. It's so stiff. They did vent their wheel, so that's good. But it is such a stiff tire comparative. I mean, the sidewalls, the contact patch, everything is very rigid, very stiff. It's not sticky. It reminds me of a plastic. It is rubber, but it reminds me of a plastic. I hate this tire. I've never even run it. This is a brand new tire. I tore it right off of the thing and said, fuck these. So that would be a poor example of a micro tire. They look fantastic, and they're licensed and everything, but they're shit execution. So that's that with those. We're finished with those. On to, let's see, we did kind of size difference. Yeah, look at the carcass thickness of your tire. You know, squeeze them. They should be really mushy. They should really be good and mushy. The compounds have kind of advanced, at least RC four-wheel drive wise. They have their X2 and their X3. If you look at the wheels or the tires when you're looking at them on their website, they have the advanced compounds. You know, the X3s are stickier and softer. I can't remember if I was kind of part of that. That was one of the main focuses talking with them, was getting a softer compound. As almost, you know, as I said, as soft as you guys can get it, because we can actually use the tire foams then. You know, you can trim them if you need to, and just really dial in how much deformation you're getting out of a tire. So onward about venting your wheels. Your wheels should be vented, period, unless you're doing like water crossing big time a lot. Then you don't really want your wheels filling up your tires with water when you cross them through. So something I was thinking the other day was that you could actually use like a little plug. You could take like a piece of styrene rod, like this, smaller probably, but and you could make a little plug with it to actually plug up your vent hole in your wheel. So it's in there, but there's a little vent hole there. I think that would be too far inside. If you have something like a little tweezer, you could put a little plug in those wheels, like someday that you want to go and just tear it up in the water or whatever, which I don't recommend, because you need to tear your axles down after you do that, and it's a bunch of work to sit there and do that just to play in the water. But you will destroy your bearings if you play in the water. So that's up to you. You know, parts are cheap, or if you want to sit there and go ahead and tear your axles down, clean them out, spray them out with WD-40 and re-grease them and everything. If you don't, those bearings will be shot playing in water. Salt or fresh, doesn't matter. So yeah, you could plug vented wheels with a little piece of styrene or plastic or whatever if you wanted to, and a tweezer. But either way, your wheels should be vented no matter what. You should have a vent hole because it allows air to flow in and out of your tire, which allows tire deformation. Again, poor example. Tire deformation. which is one of the best traits that you can have to provide traction on terrain. 1-1 vehicles, full-size 4x4s, you air down your tires when you go off-road, because you want to increase, as the tire deforms, you increase your traction patch. Your traction patch on the terrain. It increases and you get more grip, you get a better contact patch, and the vehicle will do better. So you want them to be able to breathe. Now let's see, talking about that, no air-filled tires, venting rims, foams or no foams. This is one of the biggest questions you see all the time, and the answer is it depends. It depends on your rig weight, it depends on the tire, it depends on the size of the tire, it depends on how soft that tire is. So it's a combination of a lot of different things that you need to pay attention to, those dynamics. So if you have a heavier rig, then you may need foams or partial foams. If you have something like a cut tire, so modified tread pattern, these are the TSL boggers, the RC four-wheel drives that are just an ass kicker in the dirt and do really well in the rocks as well with modified tread pattern. I've got a couple different ones. I've got ones that I've actually split these lugs as well, every other one on opposite sides. And they are so soft. They're very soft. By opening up those tread patterns, you create a softer tire overall. And you open up those lugs to really be able to clear out dirt as well. When they rotate, you can really get that dirt between those lugs and throw it out from under your tire, you know, on the inside and outside, and get that excuse me, get down to solid earth. But it, like I said, it also softens up the tire overall. It can flex better, it can deform better. So where were we? Foams or no foams, that kind of covers that. And tread cutting on tires, I definitely recommend trying it with the boggers. They're probably the most beneficial tire I can think of as far as tread cutting goes. To also touch on tread patterns, the Rock Crusher, aka bowling shoes, I believe somebody referred them as, which I thought was fantastic. The problem with these is they just have too large of lugs and they are spaced too close together. It creates a very dense tire that just I don't feel it does well. Some people think they do well. Maybe it depends on what you're running on. Off-road, I don't think these do well at all. Maybe indoors they do better. I don't know. I don't crawl indoors. But yeah, I think I ran these for a very short time. I don't remember why I got them. I knew that they were kind of had a bad rep. But anyway, yeah, so, you know, a very closed lug pattern, tread pattern, versus a very open tread pattern. I'll take this every single time in a micro tire. You know, as things scale up in the hobby, you know, physics don't change, but the way things work changes with the RCs. Things are different at micro scale. So let's see, foams or no foams. Yeah, with something like these very large scramblers that I worked with RC four-wheel drive to produce, they have such tall side walls that on any rig with a little bit of weight to it, they require a partial foam. I don't recommend a full foam because if you have wheel weights like solder wraps on the inside, that's pressing into those foams, which in turn the foams is pressing onto the outside or the inside of the the contact patch, which is going to just fight deformation. You still want good deformation out of the face of the tire, and some deflection in the sidewall as well. So I recommend a partial foam with these tires. And a lot of this is you can sit down and you can think about your rig's weight. Go ahead and weigh your rig, and then maybe you could ask, hey, my rig weighs this much, what do you guys think? Some people that actually run all the time might have a good idea for you. Weight is going to make a big difference in whether you foam a tire or not, and whether you do. I don't think I've seen a micro tire that requires any full foam. I don't think I know of any in my experience that require a full foam. These might require a full foam if you have a rig that weighs like 1.25 pounds maybe. They might do excellent with full foams. I don't know. Did you hear that? This is what you get if you have an unvented wheel. I've never run these wheels yet, so I haven't vented them. I need to drill through there and vent them. But here's what you get if you don't vent a wheel. You get an air-filled tire. So when I try to deform this, whoop, I got it slipping somewhere, but it blew off of the wheel a second ago. It blew the bead off of the wheel because it was filled with air. So that's air inside there that is fighting desirable deformation on terrain. When you're transferring from this to this or whatever, it needs to be able to react quickly. There shouldn't be air in there fighting it it won't deform. As small as these things are, if there's anything fighting that tire carcass to deform, it's not going to deform, even foams. So a partial cut foam in this tire is ideal, if you ask me. You don't want tires, when you're watching you crawling and stuff, pay attention to your tires. Pay attention how they're reacting. If they're never deforming, if they're never squishing, if that tire's never deforming, you need to do some work. You need to add some wheel weights. I don't care who wants to argue with me about wheel weights. You're talking about a problem in the 1/10 scale and up niche of the hobby. Because at this scale, I've not heard of anybody destroying anything with wheel weights. That's more of a problem when you start getting real rotational forces and real weights involved. At this scale, these tiny little rigs, man, they don't produce a lot of wheel speed unless you've done something silly like put in brushless to blow the diffs off of the thing. Then wheel weights aren't going to hurt you. They're only going to benefit you. It's a way to add the characteristics that you would get from a full-size vehicle when you're actually running it. It'll increase your center of gravity drastically. That's one of the most important things about wheel weights, is creating a better center of gravity for the rig. And then, of course, getting them to deform on terrain and react properly depending on the tire. Here's another one that I've cut the tread pattern on, and these do really, really, really well. These are the Mickey Thompsons. These do extremely well in the dirt, but I don't think they do well at all in rocks personally, because they don't want to deform very well. Even with these cut, this is a stiffer. This is kind of a stiffer tire. I think these were earlier compared to something like the Rock Creepers that came out. You can see how much easier. They just automatically, these kind of want to fight you, and they want to pop back out. These don't. They don't want to fight you. There's none of that spring back really that these have. So these came out with the scramblers. These were the two I was working with them on: compounds, wall thickness, carcass thickness, you know, and tread patterns, getting more open. And you can see they listened to me, man, and it produced a couple of really good performing tires. Look how open that tread pattern is on the creepers, as well as the scramblers. They have a pretty nice open tread pattern. There's lots of room in there for those tires to flex between those lugs and give good deformation. So let's see. One of the last things to talk about is, yeah, balance ratio of your rig. That's another important part of wheel weighting, that you are most likely going to want to put more weight in the front tires than the rear. So you want a good 60-40 weight balance, forward bias in a crawler for good performance, for good climbing. 60-40 balance, forward bias. So yeah, you might want to add more weight to your front wheels than your back. You can get scales, and you can actually weigh your rig. There's like multiple platforms that you can weigh it, and you can get the actual balance of. I'll put the thing on my finger and on the middle and the skid plate or whatever, and just kind of judge by then. But I know when I'm like building the rig too, that I'm trying to put everything forward that I can. ESCs, batteries, things of that nature, and I'm trying not to add a lot of extra stuff to the back. So yeah, balance ratio of your rig and wheel weight are two things to consider. I think I've touched on everything so far. Let's see. Yeah, those are cut boggers. Talking points. Yeah, I think that's about it for tire tuning. You know, run it, see how it performs, see how that tire performed. This is why I don't like the Mickeys, man. They just want to spring back to shape. They don't like to deform. When you get these on like off camber and you get them on their side, you're only running them on the side of the tire. So you're not getting any sidewall deformation at all and flattening that contact patch out like it should. They just pop back because they're such like a flat contact patch tire. They don't have any real rounding to the edge. The edge, those lugs are actually real sharp. They come to a corner, and it plays out in the tire too. Versus tires that kind of round off better. These are my personal favorite kind of tires that actually round off. I think that's another reason that these are so fantastic. They round off real well. These would definitely be the what do I want to say? The one that, you know, doesn't fall into that category. They have a pretty flat contact patch, but you get them on their side and they still deform pretty well because they're so damn thin and soft. RGT, I believe, and you know, its clones or whatever, that all have this tire on them. They did a phenomenal job with these tires. This is the Falcon Wild Peak and the TSL clone. God, they're wonderful. I can't wait to run that tire. But yeah, I guess that's it. We'll wrap that up. It's probably a pretty long video, but kind of touched on everything. Vent and tires, balance ratio of your rig, overall rig weight, wheel weighting, you know, tread cutting, foams. Yep, that'll wrap this video up.